excited to be speaking with Andre Myers today about his music and specifically his Partita for solo violin that I will be performing a few movements from next Sunday, June 20th, as part of my Beyond Bach series. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Andre.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Audrey. Thanks so much for asking.
Absolutely. So before we talk a little bit about your partita, I'd like to kind of hear, of course, about that piece directly from you. I just thought I'd ask you a few questions about you as a musician, as a composer, pianist, educator. I'm interested in how you got started writing music and kind of a maybe short version of how you've gotten to where you are today.
Wow. Yeah, big question. I grew up around a lot of music, I suppose. Grew up in Ann Arbor, which is a little bit outside of Detroit. Both of my parents are from Detroit. And so they grew up as children of Motown. And so there were lots of records in the house. And, when we were young, my grandfather gave us his piano, moved it into the house, and my older brother started playing piano, and I just wanted to be like him. And so I started taking piano. This must have been about 10 years old, and just kept going with it. I really enjoyed it. And I would make little recordings with cassette tapes, dating myself here a little bit, but with cassette tapes before I knew how to write music down on paper. Idea one for a new song, etc. And it just never stopped. That interest in music and in sound as an instrument of community, as an instrument of affirmation, just continued along my life's journey. And it's so yeah, that's pretty much that's the short answer. So
great. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful kind of snapshot of I always am interested. So in terms of kind of composing, when did that become like a really big part of your life, and how are you kind of inspired to really get into that realm?
Yeah, sure. I started composing seriously in high school. I mean, the first piece I ever had publicly performed was in the 8th grade. My band director was kind enough to make a little bit of time on the band concert for a piece that I had written for flute and piano. But I kept composing throughout high school and writing a lot of theater music, and beginning to think, as a lot of composers of my generation did at that time, about music for other media, film, theater, etc. And so that's really when I became serious and started writing, art song and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's great. Would you say there are some specific kinds of influences in your writing that you kind of return to again and again? You are very, like, I would say, like, well-rounded, very diverse kind of, just looking at your music that you write. I'm like, wow, there's so many interesting things. There's the theatrical stuff. There's, all different kinds of styles going on. So I'm interested to know, like, what you kind of find yourself being drawn to as inspiration.
That's a great question. I enjoy a lot of different types of music. I enjoy listening to many different genres of music, and I enjoy playing with genre as an instrument of musical expression. I enjoy considering the way in which musical style is an expression of community understanding. And so for this piece, I was really thinking a lot about the solo partitas of Bach, and spent the summer really focused in and drilled down on the solo partita in particular. But for other pieces, for other pieces, it may be jazz, it may be funk, it may be hip hop, it may be neoclassical. So it really depends. I mean, a lot of my work is pretty project specific.
Right.
If there's a particular genre that I'm really interested in exploring for a particular performer or commission or just idea, then I really try and lean into that and explore that as an instrument of musical understanding.
That's amazing. There's like such a fluidity to that, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the nature of of where we are, you know, in terms of our global condition, right? We're all interconnected now. This is
Hmm.
one thing I really appreciate about your art is that you find a way of building your music into your musical practice as an instrument of this connectivity and real bold imagining. And you're really fiercely imaginative musician. So I just I'm really glad that you're considering this work on your program.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if we're not kind of pushing those boundaries and asking like, why are we playing this, or or like, what more can we discover, and how deeply can we connect to others through this process? Like, then it seems a little empty. So yeah, it's great. So yeah, let's talk about the partita then a little bit more in depth. You have in your program note for this piece, you talk about a beautiful connection with water, which I was like, oh, this is so great. If you could just, I'm sure you'll go into that, but maybe just talk about how this piece came to be. And you touched on, you were kind of studying up on these works by Solo Bach, but could you just give a little intro to the solo partita?
Sure. There's a prosaic answer, and then there's the kind of more imaginative one. The prosaic one is that I just write for my friends. I write for my
Excellent.
friends, and um, I was at the time I was on the faculty at a school in Los Angeles, and I was I recently been doing some music, done a piano trio with violinist and a cellist, and I've been introduced to a young violinist named Robert Vijay Gupta. He just come to LA, and this was before he started to get kind of started to make a name for himself, and he was but he gave a TED talk about music as medicine. And he was talking about, or he's given a few of these, but he did one where he was talking about music as medicine. And then I think before that, he was a big fan of Bach, and he was going to give a performance at the school where I was teaching, and thought, I should write him a piece. I want to write him a little piece. I know he's fond of Bach, and so I spent the summer of I think it was 2008, really just immersing myself in the six solo suites, in the six solo pieces of Bach for violin and other solo repertoire of his. And I really started to hear the dance suite as just that, as dance music. We have tendency to sort of make these things so abstract and sort of reify them and put them up on a pedestal. It's just dance music, it's just dance music. The same way that the same way that disco is dance music, the same way that the foxtrot is dance music, same way that waltz is dance music, and that it happens to come from a particular part of the world, from a particular composer, need not mean that this music is not tied to the ground. And so I really wanted to, that's what I heard. That was my experience listening to that music during the summer of 2008. I heard the music as in two parts. I mean, because they are essentially a two-part form. It's super simple form because it's made to be danced to.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's sort of the beginnings of it. I wrote the piece for Vijay, and I was really thinking about music that's somehow grounded to our experience of dancing and of the earth and water and all of that. But yeah, when it comes to water, if I may, the thing when it comes to water is that, yeah, this music just ebbs and flows. It's in a lot of this music is in what's referred to as a balanced binary, and meaning that the way that the thing that connects two parts of a movement is that the second part ends the way the first part ends. The first part ends with the dominant and a kind of question mark, and then the second part ends with that same ending, that same music, but in the tonic, in the one chord, with a sort of answer. And I really like the way in which it's playing with this, it's the same thing, but it's an answer to the question that it asked. And that's kind of like a flow and ebb of the tide to me. It's sort of like what the tide does. It flows out, flow, yeah. Is it ebb out and then flow in, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I think so. I looked this up once, but I believe that's right.
Yeah. So I just that's the way I like to think about, just the music. And it just made writing it a lot easier to like consider the overall shape of the music, and the different tonal inflections as shapes of a wave.
Mm. That is so beautiful. I mean, the way you just talked about all of that, the kind of both the grounding aspect of the dance and also the flow of it, you really hear it in this music. Um, Also, you're like an awesome friend. Like just write music for your friends. I love that. But I thank you so much for speaking about this piece in that way. It's really fun for me to kind of hear you talk about, a dance is a dance is a dance, and it's so important to be reminded of that, because sometimes on the instrument, whatever the instrument is, you get bogged down in the like technicalities of the physical nature of it. And so it's really, good to remember as a performer, as an educator, of course, like we always have to find those dance moves, like whatever the style is. And the great thing is I do hear the influence, of course, of Bach in these movements, but it's totally done in a fresh way with your own spin on it. Both harmonically, sometimes there's some rhythmic things that are really, just like really lovely and unique, but it's always so elegant, and I love that as well. So I'm really excited for people to hear these movements on Sunday.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really appreciative of you sharing this with your community, with your people. I'm really glad to have this work out into the world, and especially be a part of your fierce and courageous artistry. So thank you so much, Audrey.
Thank you so much, and thanks for chatting. And everyone should check out all of your music and everything that you're doing. Before we end, I would love to ask: are there any fun projects coming up for you, composition or otherwise?
Yeah, this is a nice summer. I'm writing for a group called 5 by 5 in Rochester, New York, and that's going to be online at some point. I'll be sure to let you know. And
Yep.
then I've got the premiere. I've got a world premiere of my viola concerto with the Michigan Philharmonic this upcoming fall, I think in
Great.
November. So yeah, so y'all can be on the lookout for that. If you ever want to learn anything about me, andremyers.com. That's where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and take care. We'll be in touch.
Thanks so much, Audrey.